What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Breaking Bet. I can't even tell you how excited I am that we're finally here. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like Christmas morning, Matt, when you wake up and you see the presents are under the tree and Santa's been there. That's kind of the way it feels for us in the college baseball world. And how you feeling, bro? We got game day action tomorrow morning.
Man, I feel great. About 12 hours away, 13 hours away, we're going to see Indiana Duke. And then they just announced, due to some weather, Arkansas is moving up their start time. So opening day happens for me as a Razorback fan a little sooner.
Yeah, and as it usually is with the opening couple weeks in college baseball, you get a lot of these powerhouses like Arkansas, get some butter matchups. It's a bunch of layups for these teams, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But mostly you're going to be having to lay north of $300 to win $100 on these teams. Arkansas currently is about minus 500 against James Madison. And, you got Hagen Smith on the mound, and we kind of talk a little bit later on how to attack that. But, Matt, let's start with the early game tomorrow, and that's the Indiana Hoosiers and Duke Blue Devils. You got our boy Jonathan Santucci, projected a first-rounder, back on the bump after an extensive absence in 2023 with that shoulder injury. Didn't end up getting Tommy John like a lot of people, including myself, thought. Duke's getting out to about a minus 175 favorite with a total of 11.5. You think Duke's going to blow him away in his first start back, or you think Indiana keeps one close?
I don't know. I've kind of gone back and forth on this one. Initially, for those that have followed my stuff, they know that I rely heavily on pitching. And I feel like Duke has the arms. I feel like the price is a little too high, though. I think Indiana can definitely get after Santucci, especially if he starts off, kind of slow, trying to ease into it, which is to be expected. We've got aces all over the country that are going to start tomorrow, that are going to be on that 75 to 80 pitch count. So, Duke has the severe pitching advantage in this one. But on the flip side, you look at Braden Reisdorf, who I assume goes for Indiana. He's coming in with a 4.47 ERA. That's pretty comparable to what Santucci did last year. So I make this a coin flip game. So if you're going to give me plus 140 on the Hoosiers, I feel like that's the right side.
So it's actually interesting because we talked about this a few days ago. So the lines for DraftKings, and credit to them because sometimes they've been slow in the past, but with the entire offseason to cap this, you now have a full week, a full 5 days to get action down on a lot of these games, at least on the money line. And, we did that. We moved a lot of the lines, me, you, and a couple of our guys, Noah, Jake, Quentin, Doug, like a lot of the plays that we're going to go over, the lines have shifted dramatically in the last few days. But for this particular game, I remember we were talking about it, Matt. Like originally you were on Duke, and I like the thought process here. I actually had Indiana written up as a half unit play on the money line because the fact is, like, as much as I love Jonathan Santucci, he's one of my favorite players in college baseball, one of my favorite pitchers. The fact is this kid hadn't pitched since last March, and as talented as he is, he's historically struggled with the command. And obviously he's been out of game action longer than a lot of other people have. So despite the fact that Duke has a lot of arms, one of the deepest pitching staffs in the country, I think it's a fair point to say we might see this kid come out a little rusty. We might see Santucci on a pitch count, maybe even like 65, 70 pitches, which might only translate to 4 innings. And I think the Hoosiers are too big. I think Indiana is going to be one of those teams that you have to look out for this year. Probably going to make the field to 64. I would say there's a better not chance. I have them winning the Big Ten. So definitely Indiana is the play for me, given the fact that there's just too much uncertainty around Santucci.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really feel like the more I've thought about this matchup, the more Indiana seems like the right side.
One quick note here. Money line was out for the whole week, but run line and totals just dropped this afternoon, and our group chat was blowing up. And one of the things, shout out to our guy Doug, who caught this first, the fact that Duke, Indiana's total was at 12. And I threw it up on my card on Twitter. And within like 2 minutes, it dropped to 11.5. Not saying I was the sole reason for that, but I'm sure somebody hit that. It quickly dropped a half run, and I think that's going to be a big half run because I see this total finishing game-wise, not line-wise, at about 10 or 11. So, I think it's just too high because I'm not expecting Duke to get lit up, but definitely think it's possible for them to give up a few runs but not get completely destroyed.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt, kick us off here with this next game. We got the Oregon Ducks against the Oklahoma Sooners. Listen, bro, you had the Ducks to win the Pac-12. This is a perfect chance to explain to the people just why.
They've got the sickest uniforms in college baseball. No, so in all honesty, you look at the Pac-12 and it's probably going to be Oregon State, but that's not really a sexy pick. Nobody wants to go all chalk for all these conference winners. And as a Razorback fan, I had to go with the Hogs. I don't make the rules. That's what you have to do. So I started looking around different conferences and tried to find spots where I could back a not favorite, I guess. And Oregon kind of stuck out to me. They return a lot of guys on that pitching staff. Turner Spoljaric, I probably butchered that. Ian Umlant, Logan Mercado, he's probably going to go Friday night. They don't have incredibly great ERAs, but a lot of their advanced stats are up there with some of the better pitchers in the Pac-12. Oklahoma, I get it. They're kind of a blue blood program of college baseball, but this isn't the same Oklahoma team that they fielded 2 years ago when they made their Omaha run. And I just think Oregon's got a lot more to prove in this. They're going to go to a big league ballpark, and I feel like they're going to be able to hit it around, play some small ball. Bennett Thompson's one of the best catchers in the country. I feel like they're going to do a lot of good things. And getting minus 105, minus 110, whatever it is right now, I just feel like the Ducks are the better team.
It's interesting because when Oregon came out, I saw this on I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and I was like, Oregon should not be minus 105 as a dog at Oklahoma. And, listen, Oregon, I'm not buying as high as you are this year, but for this particular matchup, despite the fact that Jay Stofall has moved on to bigger and better things, he was the only reason and the only time I would back the Ducks last year. Every Friday night, I was circling the calendar for Jay Stofall. He was definitely one of probably the top 20, maybe top 18 arms in the entire country, and you might actually have him rated higher. But now that he's gone, I think there is more to prove, as you mentioned. I'm looking to see what Logan Mercado is going to bring on the first game here. He had a north of 5 ERA last year, very unimpressive, and they lost their best hitter in Seven Sabayo. I believe he went to Atlanta. It's another big pickup for the Braves. But I feel like the Ducks still have enough talent here to compete in the Pac-12 and probably make the field to 64. But the whole point was the line is out of whack. Oklahoma is not blowing anybody away right now. It's a far cry from the 2022 team. And it's a team that really had to put it together with transfers and freshmen coming in after that 2022 season where they lost the national championship to Ole Miss. So I think Oregon is still a fair price here at minus 110 as the dog. And something of note, Matt, before we move on, the most bizarre thing is the fact that even though Oregon is the underdog, you're actually having to lay 1.5 runs with them, and you're having to do it. You're only you're getting plus 130, but you have to lay 1.5 runs. I think that's just really bizarre for them being the underdog, even though it's close to a pick 'em.
Yeah, I agree. That was something we caught earlier. Minus 1.5, but you're the shorter shot as far as the favorite on the money line. Doesn't really make sense. So I think all signs kind of point to Oregon here.
Me too. This is one of my favorite games. I have a write-up on rotowire.com coming out probably within the next couple hours. This made my favorite playlist. And this is another game that has moved dramatically. That's the UC Santa Barbara Gauchos, who are now a minus 150 favorite, coming all the way across country to the Campbell Camels at plus 120. Matt, do you think UC Santa Barbara starts off the season hot as a potential sleeper like everybody believes they are?
I think they've got to. I haven't checked to see who Campbell is throwing or really who they've got. I know Matt Ager is probably going to go for the Gauchos. If their offense start slow. I feel like Campbell still has the bats to make this a game. UC Santa Barbara is not my favorite mid-major, even though they're good. We'll get to our favorite here in a little bit, I'm sure. But I don't know. This is going to be a tough test. And like you just mentioned, traveling across country to play, I'm sure it's going to be a little chilly in Campbell or in wherever they play. My brain stopped working at 9:00, but I'm sure it's going to be a little culture shock for them. So I don't know. You may make some money if you go like over or like Campbell in this spot.
So I'll tell you, I think a good way to kind of mitigate it, and I haven't completely run the numbers, but I think there's a shot here. You could do a Campbell money run line at +1.5. You got to lay 125 for it. But now, while backing also UC Santa Barbara, the thing is, it's blown up so much. I played this out, and I gave this out at -130 on Monday for UC Santa Barbara because I'm like, listen, I believe, even though it wasn't confirmed, and it's still not confirmed that Matt Ager's going. But even if Matt Ager wasn't going, they have Mike Gutierrez or maybe even Ryan Gallagher to go. I'd be a little bit more confident in Mike Gutierrez because Gallagher missed all of last year. They have a really good closer in Hudson Barrett. And they're playing a Campbell Camels team that, they lost a lot of their star power from last year, including their star ace, Cade Cooler. And they brought in Derek Vartanian for a JUCO transfer, and they have Chance Tequila coming back. So I believe it's going to be one of those two guys. But their offense isn't the same offense that was top 10 in most that was top 10 in most offensive categories last year. So I think they're susceptible. Campbell still has a really good outfielder in Lawson Harrell. He had 22 Jimmy Jacks last year. But the fact is, I went with the better pitching, and I think Santa Barbara's got enough hitting to stave off any Campbell pitching. But I got to be honest, though, now that I grabbed UC Santa Barbara at -130, I'm kind of feeling maybe taking the Camels at +1.5 to see if I can try and middle that. And in any case, I wouldn't get hurt too bad. I'd lose I think $30 in VIG at most. So I feel like that almost might be the play for me. But the fact of the matter is, Matt, I think I got to go with the better pitching, despite the fact that I'm kind of getting cold-ish feet on the aggressiveness of the line movement here for the Gauchos.
Well, I tried to make weather a thing, but they're both pretty comparable. They're both playing in low 50s right now. It is supposed to get down to 29 Saturday night, though. In Bowie's Creek, North Carolina. That's where Campbell is.
So they're playing at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to be a factor at that time, but to tell you the truth, bro, UC Santa Barbara, I got to go with the better team. You know how much I loved Campbell last year. I hit them at 300-1 to win it all. I hit him at 100-1. I hit him at 200-1. Like, I was all over the Camels last year. I had near 6 figures on them to win the College World Series. I believed in them that much. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the lack of pitching. They don't have one pitcher where you could look at and say, yeah, he's the guy. He's their only guy to worry about. You had that with Cooler last year. He's gone. And you don't even have the offense anything close to what it was last year. Like, you have Harrell. He's a stud. And then you have Grant Knipp, who's solid. But, I mean, you lose a guy like Jared Belbin. You lose Drake Pearson. You lose Bryce Arnold. There's just so much left on the bone there for this offense. So I think -150 is still a fair price. I don't think it's terrible to try and do the Santa Barbara money line at -150 and Campbell +1.5 at -125. You won't get hurt too bad if you play an even unit on both of those plays there.
Yeah, I need to dive in more to this Campbell pitching rotation and just see what they're bringing back. But gut says Friday night, Matt Ager, Gauchos to the right side. Outside of that, you may want to make sure you know what pitchers are going.
Right. Friday night's for the horses, bro. I mean, when you were getting -130 at one point with probably Matt Ager on the mound, you're going to take that against almost any team in the country. So I think that was the right side. A -130 that we got was an absolute steal. Matt, start me off here with the next game, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, a big -180 at the Sam Houston State Bearcats with a 13.5 total.
This is one that I kind of leaned Sam Houston. I don't know what Oklahoma State's going to have returning. I know Carson Benji, he's going to be good, but outside of that, the pitching rotation really lacked for the Cowboys last season, and I feel like you're going to get more of the same this season, if not a little more heightened. Sam Houston State, on the other hand, this has been a team that I've backed for the last couple of years here. I feel like they just get it done when the lights are brightest and they've got a big name opponent. They've upset Arkansas several times in the midweeks over the last few years. So this is one that I haven't really dove into. I hope it's a later start time so I can, but this one, I don't know. That's a high price to lay on a Cowboys team that I just don't think is going to be that great this year.
I'm going to echo the same thing. Oklahoma State has been running into issues for the last year, 2 years. The pitching has been unreliable. I mean, at least in 2022, they had a really good live arm that was capable of completely shutting down an opponent on a Friday night in Justin Campbell. He's with the Cleveland Guardians. He left after last year. And then now you had Warren Watts Brown in 2023. Same kind of guy. I mean, he was a little bit hit or miss, but when he was on, unhittable. He's gone as well. They don't have that guy in 2024. And their offense took a step back. I mean, you got Carson Benji, probably a first rounder this year. You got Nolan Schubart, probably a first rounder next year. But like, there's a lot in between that's very up in the air. And you're laying this big of a number against a team like Sam Houston State, who is one of those mid-major programs that can really give a better team a hard time. And you're giving me this kind of a number. I don't hate the plus 140 sprinkle, but Matt, the run line here is plus 2.5. Sam Houston State, I believe, is at home. They're getting 2.5 runs, and you're only laying minus 130. If I was playing anything in this game, and I don't have anything official here just because I already have enough, and this didn't make the list of my favorites, but I would take the Bearcats getting 2.5 at home, only laying minus 130 for that.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think just buck up and take the money line, though. Let's get an outright dog win at home. Huntsville, Texas. They got they get the scraps, the leftovers from Texas, Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Man, I feel like Sam Houston always fields a decent ball club. And like we've both reiterated here, Oklahoma State, not that good this year. Just take that money line. You know you want to taste.
Bearcats are definitely one of the better underdogs, I think, of opening day. You know what's interesting? I actually had been in contact with DraftKings over the last 2 weeks, and I requested a lot of markets, one of which was the weekend series prices. By the way, they emailed me the other day and said, hey, we're going to have this up for opening day. And obviously, we still have a little bit of time. But if I was looking at this, and this is a weekend series, I would seriously consider taking Sam Houston for this weekend series. I would imagine the price is probably going to be in like the plus 180 range, give or take. And I think that would be a bet, but I got to be honest, I don't know if they're going to hang that.
So you've got Atkinson starting. Colton Atkinson, he was a 4.80 ERA guy, 9-5 last year. I think they returned all their starting pitchers. Atkinson, Wells, Helms. Helms didn't start last year, but you've got your best guy in Atkinson going. Had a 4.80. Chandler David was their closer. He was 6-0, 2.34 ERA. This Bearcats club could be tricky. I'm going to see who Oklahoma State's starting, but I think that's a play.
Yeah, Sam Houston State at home, underdog against a team that is probably on almost the same tier in terms of talent and competition. And don't forget, by the way, like Sam Houston State's got my guy, catcher Walker Janik, who was my last round pick in our fantasy draft, expecting some big things out of my guy, Walker, this year. But Sam Houston's definitely going to be live. I think there's a very good possibility they can take this 3-game series at home to open up the season against the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
McCord, I saw your comment. Thanks for the follow, by the way. Duke, Indiana, we broke down in the beginning. We like Indiana. Gators baseball to the fucking moon. Yeah, I
But
agree,
we do.
Ken.
Oh, that's my boy Ken. Shout out my boy Ken. I haven't seen this kid in a minute, bro. We became boys in Tampa. We live in the same development. Love you, Ken. Hope to see you soon, brother. All right, Matty G, we got our next game here. One of the more interesting ones, I think. That's the San Diego Toreros, a team that did make the regionals against Vanderbilt in 2022. They're at the Texas Longhorns. Sizable favorite at minus 230 with a total at 9.5. Matt, it's Friday night. It's Texas baseball. Who's starting for the Longhorns? None other than the real LBJ, LeBaron Johnson Jr., possible first-round pick in 2024. Little hello, how you doing? Take me to this game. Do the Longhorns get it done, and do they cover the 2.5 run line total?
That was my next question, is what was the run line. Minus 230 seems short to me. I wasn't going to lay that kind of juice. I did put them in a parlay with Arkansas and TCU to end up getting, I think, plus 133. I wouldn't shy away from laying the run line, though, if you like the Longhorns. I think LBJ is going to be virtually unhittable this year. His draft stock's going to rise. He's got a great changeup, splitter, whatever you want to call it. And then his fastball is good. But San Diego, they're kind of one of those sneaky West Coast teams that always field a pretty good club. But I don't know. Minus 230 seems really short. I'd put them more at like minus 285, minus 300 even. So yeah, bro, I think there's some value there on the Longhorns.
I mean, Texas is your team to win the Big 12. I don't think it's a bad pick. You get them at plus 450 still. Haven't checked Bet Rivers in the last few days, though. But to be honest, like, it's not just LeBaron Johnson Jr. You got Will Gasparino, the freshman, coming in. You got Porter Brown. You got Jared Thomas. Like, there are bats to go along with it. And, you know, for me, San Diego's got to prove it. I don't think they're a pushover. I don't think this is a gimme. They're a team that's kind of like one of those pesky mid-majors. But, I mean, I'm not really into laying the run line this early until I've seen the product. I'd rather lay the 2.5 because you're getting plus 120 for it. Typically, I don't like laying run lines for home teams, but at the end of the day, I mean, there's certain cases where I'm going to just take advantage of the clear pitching matchup when you got a star and LeBaron Johnson on the mound. And I do have the run line as a half unit play on my card this week or for Friday. But I also have Texas in a couple of parlays. I think the Longhorns will take care of business.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's get on here to our darling dark horse. And quick shout out to my guy, Rob Fonseca. I went to high school with him. Great baseball player. I believe he went to Northeastern. I'm pretty sure he did. And he goes, Northeastern is a lock. So hopefully he didn't mush us here. But you got the Huskies at plus 120. They're at Arizona, minus 150. Total's 12.5. Another line. The Huskies were plus 160 on Monday, down to plus 120, even plus 115 in certain spots. I do see our guy Baldy Lock saying Northeastern's at plus 115 now. Baldy would be interested to see what book you got it at. Right now, 115. But nevertheless, there's been a lot of movement. And even if you look at another line like Circa's got them at minus 115, I believe. I think Northeastern should be the underdog. And you're going to have Wyatt Scotty on the mound against Jackson Kent, who only made 4 starts last year. He did have 18 appearances, but he wasn't that impressive. The Arizona offense is still going to be good. One of the things they did really well last year, Matt, was just pepper you to death, hit after hit after hit. But they lost guys like Mac Bingham, went to LSU. Chase Davis, first rounder. I think they lost Kiko Romero as well. They lost all their pitching. They lost TJ Nichols. I don't know if I see Arizona deserving to be this big of a favorite. I feel like the only advantage they have is the fact that Northeastern's kind of been playing a little bit more in the cold weather, and they have to travel across country. But talent-wise, I think I got to back the much better team with the much better pitcher in the Northeastern Huskies. This price is still good, even though it's come down a lot.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised that Avon Cabrel wasn't getting the start. He came in with a 2.58 ERA. Wyatt Scotty's at 3.91. Not terrible. Both of their Sierras are in the mid threes. But this just means for me that Northeastern, even if they drop game one, whenever Cabrel goes, that's where you load up again, because that line's going to get back north of plus 160, I'm sure. I got
Sunday.
Northeastern plus 140. Yeah, he's going Sunday. Jake Gigliotti is going.
That's bizarre. I don't know why he's going Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know either, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And if you can get an even better number with an even better pitcher on the mound, I feel like you've got to do it.
Yeah, and we had a reminder. We can't forget about Mike Sirota for this game. This is a guy that is a blue chip prospect, projected top 10 pick, All-American. I mean, he's probably going to be at least a 2020 guy batting over 350 this year.
Man,
I mean,
and not just Sirota. You've got Cam Maldonado, Tyler McGregor. I mean, all these guys, they're hitting over 1,000 OPS and double-digit home runs. Like, Northeastern's not a team that you take lightly. And to me, they're a better value pick for as far as mid-majors go than UC Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara's got pitching great, but their bats do not line up with Northeastern.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, bro, that's why anybody that didn't know, I was in Vegas a month ago for Wild Card Weekend. While everybody's focusing on football, I'm running to the window at Caesars. I'm like, where's the college baseball odds? I had done some reading on D1 baseball, checking out some of the dark horse teams to look at. And on that list, Northeastern, fair enough. I saw them play last year, and, they got their asses handed to them in the regionals against Wake Forest, but, like, Wake was a buzzsaw. And then I was just like, okay, like, where's Northeastern at? Bro, they were 2,500 to 1. That's plus 250,000. $100 went you 250K on them. Like, I hit them. I am heavily invested in this team just because, like, they're so well-rounded. They're a team that is not only well-rounded, not only has outrageously mispriced odds that are in a bettor's favor, but also they're garnering a lot of respect across the sport. They're a top 25 team. Like, how many times are you going to get a top 25 team at that price? And they're still 200 to 1 on DraftKings, which is probably double the price they should be. I would have them more in like the 95 to 1, 100 to 1 range. And, this is a team that realistically, if they play up to what is expected of them, they can be hosting in the regionals. Maybe not the super regionals, but a regional for sure. So I find it bizarre that Northeastern is this big of an underdog still against an Arizona team that, outside of like a good Pac-12 tournament run, really wasn't that impressive and has lost a lot of their talent.
Yeah. I think that's great value by you. Good job getting that. I'm a little jealous.
Thank you. I will be patting myself on the back. I will be buying a lot of Northeastern gear.
We know.
All right, let's get back to the team that, if it wasn't for betting and it was just pure fanhood, I'd probably say is my favorite team. That's the Tennessee Volunteers. They are in the Shriners Classic against Texas Tech Red Raiders. They're a minus 180 favorite. Texas Tech, a little bit of value, plus 140, totals 10.5. To a lot of people, including ourselves, surprise. It is not projected first rounder Friday night guy Drew Beam taking the start tomorrow, but it's pretty good sophomore AJ Russell. No qualms about Russell. I think he's a very good starter. I think he's going to be a big piece for the Volunteers run this year. But does the fact that Russell's starting in place of Beam in this tournament deter you from laying a minus 180 price against a Red Raiders team that has some pretty good boppers?
No, because advanced analytics say that AJ Russell's the best pitcher on that Tennessee Vols staff. He comes into the season with a very impressive 0.76 Sierra, a 38.1% KBB, and a 0.89 ERA. This kid doesn't have to go long, but when he's out there, he's going to give Texas Tech a run for their money. Plus, you're going down to Globe Life Field. It's a big league ballpark. It's going to be hard to get it out. Cash, Basil, yes, they can smash. Maybe not in Globe Life. So I'll take the better pitching staff all damn day. And I hated laying the minus 180. I thought after the news of Beam not starting, this line may trickle down a little bit, but it hasn't really moved. I think Tennessee, they've got guys that can just absolutely rake too. So if it comes in and starts out to be a shootout, I still feel just as good with back in Tennessee in this spot.
I think Tennessee will win. I wouldn't hate to lay the 180 on them. I'd probably go half unit on that play. This is not on my card. Tennessee as a straight up money line favorite. I'm not touching the run line, and I'll tell you why. On paper, Tennessee is the better team. They have two big transfers with Cannon Peebles and Billy Amick this year. Their offense returned some of their better guys. Blake Burke, Christian Moore, I think Zane Denton's back. But the fact is, I feel like I need to see Tennessee's offense get in the groove before I start laying bigger numbers with them. And the pitching is great, no doubt about it. But I want to see what these new transfers come in and do out of the bullpen. AJ Russell, I really like, but I don't know if this guy's going to go more than like 4 or 5 innings. I'd probably say 5 innings. Like I could see 85 pitches being his ceiling for game one. But the fact is, like Texas Tech, we mentioned it. They have guys like Gage Harrelson, who's a really good on base guy, Gavin Cash, who could hit the ball to the moon. Kevin Bizzell, the catcher, who's a really good tough out. I just feel like it's a little big for my taste, and I feel like I'm better off as a half unit here. Remember last year, bro, the Tennessee Volunteers went into the Desert Invitational with Dolly on the mound. Dolly wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. But their offense didn't do anything. You got shut down by TJ Nichols, who's okay. He's gone. He's in the majors. Tennessee was a slow starter last year. And I'm not necessarily saying just because they finished hot that they're going to click right off the bat. So to me, it's a half unit tread lightly play. On paper, it looks good. But, the Volunteers, I got to see them get rolling first.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too. Slow start last year for Tennessee. However, I think this team is going to be better than it was last year. And that's saying a lot, losing Chase Burns and Chase Dolander. But at the end of the day, Tony Vitello is a smart coach. He knows what he's doing. There's a reason Drew Beam didn't go on Friday night in a must-win game, in my opinion. If you want to walk out of Arlington unscathed, you've got to win the biggest matchup of the weekend, and I think it's this one versus Texas Tech.
I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, listen, not for nothing, bro. The Shriners Classic is one of my favorite tournaments throughout the whole year. That's like not conference tournament or anything along those lines. It always provides good baseball. It's definitely the toughest game of their weekend. I mean, they get Oklahoma on Saturday, which we'll probably see Beam. That I would definitely lay. They got Baylor on Sunday. That's a layup. So I do agree with you. If they can take this Texas Tech game tomorrow night, they should be able to go undefeated throughout the weekend. But again, I just can't say because Tony V's a great coach and they're going to be better than they were last year. Like, don't get me wrong, bro. You know this. I have Tennessee going to the College World Series this year. I think they're going to go back for a second straight year. So I'm not worried about them long term. But I feel like to me, I wouldn't lay a full unit past like minus 160, 65. I think 180, in my opinion, is just a bit steep. And I do love AJ Russell. I think he's going to be huge. But, I mean, it's a new year, first start. Texas Tech is no gimme. That's a team we're probably going to be playing in June. Okay, then our last feature game here is going to be the Kansas State Wildcats, the California Golden Bears. K-State, baby. That's one of my 4 big sleepers. I really believe in K-State this year. This is another one. I grabbed K-State at even money on Monday. It's ballooned all the way out to them being a minus 140 favorite after being about a 15-cent dog. You think Owen Barama and the Wildcats get it done at the Cal Golden Bears on Friday or not?
I do. I think Owen Barama has a lot of the things you need in an ace. All the intangibles are there. He's got a good fastball, sits mid-90s. I have to believe that he has improved. We all know about Tyson Neighbors as one of the best closers, if not the best closer in the country. Barema's ERA is not impressive. It's a 5.06, but he was 7-2 last year in 15 games that he started. This guy can go the distance. I mean, he could give you 6 or 7 good innings, and I feel like if you can do that this weekend, you should be able to beat Cal. I mean, I get it. It's a West Coast team, but at the end of the day, the West Coast baseball conferences haven't been that great lately. And I know Pac-12 has always kind of ran college baseball over the last 200 years or however far back you want to go to find USC's baseball championships. But here lately, it's been the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC. They're the ones making all the noise. And Kansas State, this is your year. Let's do it, Wildcats.
Just want to echo that point. I think Barama's going to have a big bounce back here. Graduate student. He's a lefty with good stuff, big strikeout. And, like, it's worth noting, Barama is like a hit or miss guy. There's some starts you look at him and be like, wow, this kid is really good. Then it's like other times like, okay, like what the hell do you think you're doing, buddy? I mean, this is the same guy that went 4 1/3, only allowed 1 earned run, no walk, 7 punches against LSU early in the year. He also had a start where he gave up 7 earned, 10 hits against West Virginia. Like, it's kind of hit or miss on this guy. And I do feel like if he's able to keep the ball in the yard, and he doesn't walk too many people, this is going to be one of those starts where he might go 6 innings. This kid is a workhorse. When he's grooving, he's tough to square up. And, Cal is going to be an interesting team because I really like Rodney Green, another projected first rounder out of an outfielder, potentially a 2020, maybe a 2030 year this year for him. Then you got a really good catcher in Caleb Lomavita. But, like, I don't find any impressiveness out of the pitching. I think they're going Trey Newman. You have to correct me on that. Trey Newman is a I might be thinking of a different team, but I'm pretty sure Trey Newman's going. He is a freshman. Is it Newman?
For Cal?
Yeah. I believe it is.
Anyways, continue while I look this up.
And anyways, if it is Newman, bro, like he's a freshman, he's got good stuff, but like he's never faced a college team before. And I really do like the offense. I think Kalen Culpepper is going to have a great season. And Matt, one thing to remember, Kansas State just has to get to the 9th inning with a lead because they have the best closer in the nation, as you mentioned, Tyson Neighbors, a guy who I think is an outside shot for the Golden Spikes. You might have a Kevin Kopps 21 type of season. So, I think Kansas State's going to be dangerous in a lot of these games, and where closers in college baseball especially are something of an uncertainty. Kansas State's got the most sure thing you could possibly have in the sport in the late innings. So I think Kansas State at minus 140 is probably right in the fair range. I probably wouldn't go above like minus 155 with them. I feel like we're about to find their ceiling. K-State to me is definitely a hit. And, I would be looking to back them in a lot of serious prices this year if and when DraftKings decides to put that up.
Yeah, Cal hadn't announced anything on their starting rotation.
So I must have been thinking of somebody else. See, that's the problem. You look at all these different games and you start confusing who's going where.
Yeah, get better at announcing.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we talked about some games that we like, but we haven't really talked about the big underdogs that are worth a look that we haven't put on our cards. Is there anybody that you're looking at that you're like, I feel like they should be a team that is worth betting in some capacity on Friday?
Underdog, no. I like Jacksonville. They're taking on Cincinnati. And Evan Crest is one of my favorite pitchers. I drafted him in our fantasy football or fantasy baseball draft. That's habit right
better.
There. That was one that I think it was minus 150. It opened minus 135. I didn't jump on it fast enough. But that's definitely one that I had circled. And then I'm on UC Santa Barbara with you minus 130. But outside of that, I think we covered all the other ones.
I'm looking at some dogs here. First, I'm going to go with Xavier against Clemson. You could find Xavier in like the plus 160 range. Some cases they're pushing plus 200 at a Clemson team that I think is going to be really good. I think they're going to be a tournament team. I think they're going to win a lot of games this year. They're going to have a shot to challenge for the ACC regular season title, but the pitching is a big mystery. We talked about it a lot over the last few weeks. This is a team that lost their best pitcher and best overall player in Caden Grice. He's with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And they're going to be searching to fill that pitching void that they didn't really even have that much of last year, aside from Grice. They're going to be throwing Billy Barlow, who made only 3 outings last year, 3 1/3 innings. He had a red shirt medical year, hadn't really pitched much since 2022. The last time this guy threw was in middle of March. So he's coming back. You have no idea what he's going to look like. You have no idea how long he's going to go against an Xavier team that's kind of frisky. And they're throwing Luke Hoskins. Luke Hoskins, Matt, the last time we saw this guy went 7 innings, 1 run, 10 punchies in the regionals against Vanderbilt. So I think there's a pitching advantage for Xavier. I think there's enough power in the offense for them to put up even like a 4 spot, which might be enough because, outside of Cam Canarella and Will Taylor, I don't know if I'm really fearing anybody on this Tigers roster. Did you think Xavier is worth a look here? If not on the money line, maybe on the plus 2.5 run line where you're going to lay like minus 160?
This is just going to be a wait and see. I like Clemson this year. I think what Eric Bakich has done is very impressive, but they did lose a lot, and we'll see. This is not one that I'm running to bet right now. I want to see Clemson and see how good they're going to be.
That's fair. I know you're like shaking your head at me or going to, but one of the teams that I was looking to play early January before lines even came out because I knew they were going to be a sizable dog is the Seton Hall Pirates against the Iowa Hawkeyes with Brody Brecht on the mound. The line's not as big as I thought. The only place you can find it outside of New Jersey or in Jersey is on Oaklawn Sports in your home state of Arkansas. I'm sure, obviously, if you're not in the state of New Jersey, you could probably look at this. I feel like Seton Hall is going to challenge them. Plus 250. I think they're the home team. They're not playing in New Jersey. I think they're playing in Florida or one of the Carolinas. I have to check on that. But they're facing Brody Brecht. And here's my theory on this. Brody Brecht is going to be one of the top arms off the board this summer. He's gotten up to 104 miles an hour. He sits probably like 99, 100. Really good slide piece. Great strikeout guy. But he has shown a lot of times where the control can just get away from him. He can have one of those 6 or 7 walk outings in 3 innings, get chased early, pitch count goes up. This is a guy who has not thrown. It's probably more of a cold weather game in some capacity. He's not going to be getting a lot of pitches, not only because they want to save him for the rest of the season, but Iowa's already said they might manage his pitches, might manage his innings this year because they're thinking about his future. I don't see him throwing many innings or pitches in this first game. I can possibly see him be a little erratic as he has been in the past. This is a guy that is not very polished at this stage in his career. He's being drafted off of his potential, not off what he's done at this point. So I think getting plus 250 at Seton Hall is worth a little bit of a sprinkle on the money line. I'd probably say they're going to be in the plus 2.5 run line range. And if you're getting that at home, I think it's worth a look. I mean, Seton Hall beat the North Carolina Tar Heels in the opening week of last year. I think it's worth a look. I feel like Iowa might lose one game. I don't love the Hawkeyes. I don't think they're that great. I think they have really good pitching, but like pitching struggles sometimes, and especially early in the season when it's cold, when guys aren't loose, they're not in game shape, they're not going to have their usual pitch counts. The Iowa offense isn't that great. I think there's room here for Seton Hall to steal one. And given the number here against Brody Brecht, I kind of like it.
I could see him dropping one. I don't think it's going to be Brody Brecht's first start. You want to talk about a kid that's probably locked in, gave up football, focused solely on baseball. Like you said, he's going to be a high draft pick. I don't think they lose this game. I'm not going to lay the minus 1 or 345 that they were at. But yeah, I mean, you're in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Not sure how the weather is, but I don't care. He's been warming up all spring in Iowa. Let's go, Brody Brecht. You're about to go start 3-0. Seton
Yeah,
Hall,
that's your
Ball
boy.
State, Lehigh. Let's go.
Bro, honestly, that's your boy. You love Brody Brecht. That's one of your favorite
Stud.
pitchers in college. He
Stud.
is a stud. He is a stud, but he is susceptible at certain times. Matt, last big dog that I wanted to touch on. Another one in our group chat. Kentucky at USC Upstate. USC Upstate's a plus 200 dog at home. They're getting 3.5 runs, and he only got a lay minus 135 for that. I feel like this is an upset alert. Kentucky is like the Duke of the SEC. They don't have any dominant starters. They don't have a dominant offense. They do the little things well, but they are beatable. And Upstate is one of those teams that was like giving Campbell a run for their money last year in the conference towards the end of the season, that they almost stole it from them. Would you lay the run line or the money line with Upstate?
I don't want any part of this. I don't bet Kentucky football. I don't bet Kentucky basketball. And I don't want any part betting Kentucky baseball. If anything, I would fade them because I feel like Kentucky is the same rinse and repeat every year. They're going to have 3 decent pitchers that all throw sub 6 ERAs, somewhere in the mid 5s. Most notably, like Zach Lee last year, he was, I think, a high 4, low 5 guy. Didn't really do a lot on offense. They kind of go through the motions. They play smart. Obviously smart enough to where they got in a position where they were hosting last year in the field of 64. Yeah. Do I like USC Upstate? No. I couldn't tell you 2 things about them. Do I like Kentucky? Absolutely not. This is probably a coin flip. I don't know who's starting pitching for either team. I need to look into it before I just blindly give you a response. But yeah, it sounds like USC Upstate definitely has it in their cards to win this game. And it won't surprise me one bit because Kentucky, like I said, not that great.
Yeah, that's a fade daddy for sure. One game I wanted to talk about with you was, and I probably won't play anything on this, but I was just intrigued to get your opinion. You got Oregon State playing New Mexico. They're a minus 330 favorite, and the run line's 3.5. You're only laying $1.25 for that. The Lobos aren't they're not really a baseball team. Oregon State is one of the best teams in the country. They're going to have arguably the best front to back offense in the country, but the pitching is very suspect. They just lost one of their rotation guys, Aiden May. I believe he's out for the year. All of their pitchers were north of 5 ERA guys. Would you lay the run line at 3.5 with this Beavers team?
Is Aiden May out? I need to know that for sure.
I'm pretty sure Aiden May is out. I saw something, I think, yesterday. Transfer from Arizona. I feel like I saw something where they were saying Aiden May is done for the year. It might have been from Kendall Rogers. Let's see. It could have been somebody else.
February 14th, so yesterday? It says Oregon State has named Arizona transfer Aiden May as their opening day starter.
Yeah,
and then 10 hours ago, it says Oregon State baseball settles pitching rotation. Aiden May named Beavers Friday night starter.
Yeah.
So if it is Aiden May, which it looks like it is, I wouldn't be trying to fade them against New Mexico. I think New Mexico or New Mexico State had an upset early on last season, but I don't think that gets recreated this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it is him, I don't know why. I thought I saw something where somebody was out.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember. Somebody between Arizona, Oregon State, and Oregon lost one of their key pitchers, though.
That was probably it. That's why there's so many guys you have to keep track of. So sometimes you think you're talking about somebody else, you're not. I mean, I think 3.5 is a good number. I mean, I would probably think Oregon State is going to put up a 10 spot. I mean, the total's 13.5. That's not too bad. I feel like they're going to put up a 10-piece on their own accord. So I think laying 3.5 is not out of the question for me if you're looking to get another team that we really didn't talk about. Matt, any other plays, any other teams that you wanted to talk about before we head out of here?
I don't think so. I think we've covered them all and some.
Okay, well, before we do, this is the full JohnnyVTV Friday card. Again, I put out most of these plays on Monday. A couple were today. You got Northeastern money line at plus 160, UC Santa Barbara money line at minus 130, Kent State money line at plus 100, Indiana money line plus 135, half unit, Oregon money line minus 105, Jacksonville money line minus 135, Texas run line minus 2.5 plus 120, half unit, Duke, Indiana under 12 minus 115, half unit, parlaying Dallas Baptist, Arkansas, Vandy for plus 108. And then I'm going to parlay Tennessee, Texas, and TCU at plus 202. Unfortunately, I got some of these lines so early, people might think that I'm just making my own lines up.
Well,
but there's Twitter evidence. There's Twitter evidence to support this that stems back from Monday.
You're good. Whatever.
Want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to doing this. Matt and I will be hosting Breaking Bet usually every Friday. Had some scheduling conflicts tonight, but get ready to see us mostly every Friday afternoon to cover the best bets and the best games of the college baseball slate. Hopefully more markets will be opening up in the near future on DraftKings so we could talk about more than just the games. We could talk about weekend series prices, etc. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. I'm at _JohnnyVTV. He's at GrissomX. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
On X. Grissom
On
X.
X. Relax.
Yeah. On X.
On X. All right.
Twitter.
We got to get out of here. Enough.